Facts.
Welcome to this, the Thursday, or as we like to call it around here, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Ahlstrand. Very glad you're able to spend some time with us as we roll you through the week. And lo and behold, it's a long weekend, right? How many of you forgot that Monday's a holiday? Anyway, it is. And a holiday of sorts for many school children throughout Nova Scotia today. A snow day across the province. Now, it's been a minute since we've had this many snow days, right? We haven't had, I don't remember over the last couple of years having this many snow days, period, but certainly, at least in HRCE, and certainly not this many in succession, right? We've had one for the last 4 weeks. So interesting that, or 3 weeks, that, so it's very interesting to see how that dynamic works for you. Far be it for me to question the decision-making process of the school board or the Regional Center for Education, but I don't know about you, I didn't have a whole lot of problem getting to work this morning. The roads, at least on my commute, were wet. The side streets on my commute looked plowed. Parking lots, I drove all the way up Kemp Road, where all the car lots are, and the big grocery stores and all of the businesses around Young Tower, where our studio location is, and they're all plowed. Have we developed a fear of snow here in Nova Scotia? And the reason I ask that question is when we have discussions about snow days, and I understand that safety is paramount and all of the arguments that are surrounding that. But, I mean, businesses aren't opening until noon. The government's not opening till noon. The sun was peeking through the clouds here an hour ago before we came on the air. Have we become timid? Have we become afraid of snow? Might be something you want to talk about when we open up the open lines here at 11 o'clock. And we'll take your calls on that. And, of course, regular rules will apply. You can bring anything that you'd like to bring to the table. Now, of course, we're continuing to watch the ongoing tragedy unfold in British Columbia in Tumbler Ridge. More details released by police yesterday. We know that the person responsible, 18-year-old Jesse Van Rutzeler, who was a high school dropout at the same high school where the shooting took place. Apparently, this person dropped out 2 years ago, was undergoing a transition, and has had mental health issues in the past. We know some of the victims of this horrific incident. The 18-year-old's mom and stepbrother were the two that were found shot in the home. And then 3 12-year-old girls, 2 boys, 12 and 13, and a teacher who was 39 at the high school. And again, we talked about this yesterday on the program, that the Tumbler Ridge is a very small community. I think there was only 160 students that attended that high school. So as much as these are horrific, no matter the size of the institution or the size of the community, in a town like that, it gets magnified, I think, because pretty well, I've lived in towns that small. Everybody does know everybody, and I would imagine makes this, if it's even possible, a much worse tragedy. A lot of the attention is, of course, being paid on the person responsible, the shooter, the weapons that were used. Of course, the police yesterday saying that it was a long gun and a modified handgun, which I'm not really sure what that means. Police didn't go into detail on that. I'm sure that will come out in the days to come. Both weapons not registered to the shooter, and that police had responded to several calls to the home over the last few years, dealing with mental health concerns, and some involving weapons. Apparently, some weapons were seized from that home in the past, and that is the latest that I have on this. And I'm sure more information will come out. But again, I mean, the whole world is is coming together to support this community, and we, as we did yesterday and again today, will send our strongest condolences to everybody affected in Tumbler Ridge. Switching gears a little bit, it's tough to kind of segue from that terrible story to something that's not so terrible, but we'll do the best that we can. And Canada is still competing at the Olympic Games. The women's hockey team on the ice right now, and as I came into the show today, when the sounder was going off, it was a 1-0 score for Canada, who were playing this. This is the makeup game that was postponed earlier in the tournament because Team Finland ended up coming down with like norovirus or something. Anyway, the last check that I had, it was 1-0 for Team Canada in the first period there. The men's team will kick off their tournament today. I know that many of you are looking forward to that one. It's an 11:40 start Atlantic time. So I would imagine there will be some televisions or perhaps some computer screens at work, for those of you that went to work today. With that game on, I know there's some significant public interest in that, and of course, there's significant amount of Nova Scotia content on both teams. We've talked about the women's team and Blair Turnbull and Coach Troy from Spryfield and other coaches behind the bench that are Nova Scotians. But there has also been attention paid to the men's team and of course, on the ice with our Cole Harbour connection, can I call it that, with Sidney Crosby and Brad Marchand and Nathan McKinnon. So we'll watch with interest on that, and as that game unfolds, we'll try to provide you some updates here on the program if you're unable to watch that here on the show. Speaking of hockey, the Halifax Mooseheads will take to the ice again tonight, looking to perhaps start some momentum, restart some momentum for that squad. But they're going to be in tough as they host Shawinigan tonight. That game is at 7. The pregame show goes at 6:30. The Mooseheads will also entertain cross-provincial rival the Moncton Wildcats tomorrow at Scotiabank Centre as well. So a weekend of hockey for you, both on the television and live here at Scotiabank Centre. And of course, we can't not forget that Canada has secured itself another medal at the Olympic Games, and the GOAT, as he's been called, the greatest of all times, at least in men's moguls, Mikkel Kingsbury was onto the podium, scoring a silver medal earlier this morning in men's moguls, so congratulations to him. Mikkel, of course, was one of the co-flag bearers for Team Canada at the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, so congratulations to him, and we will keep our eyes on the goings-on in Italy, and if anything changes over the next little bit here, we will certainly pass those along to you. So we've got a busy show planned for you today, of course, as I mentioned. We will be doing the open hour coming up at 11 o'clock. I'm interested in your thoughts on, and I really don't want to criticize HRCE for their decision because there's a lot of factors, lot of plates in the air when it comes to making a decision like that, right? There's different regions of HRCE and you know, when it comes to kid safety, I get it. It's a difficult decision, but I want to ask you, and I hope that you participate in this, is that as a populace, as a community of Nova Scotians, have we become afraid of snow? It seems that whenever the forecast calls for 10, 15, 20 centimeters of snow, then everybody immediately runs to the grocery store, right? And empties the shelves, and particularly in the potato chip aisle for whatever reason. And then everybody kind of just hunkers down, and you know, snow days are expensive, like particularly if you have kids, and storm chips aside. You know, there's childcare issues. There's days missed at work. I know many of you that stayed home with your kids today are able to work from home, which is a wonderful revelation, and I'm glad that you're able to do that. But storm days definitely are expensive, and now we're not only seeing schools shut down for the day, or at least delay opening, and the schools are shut down for the day, but many businesses are delaying their opening, and I have to, and I only can use my commute in as an example. But I really didn't have any problem getting to work today. Allister Aalders, our meteorologist, will join us in the hour number 3 today. But he did send me some preliminary data from volunteer sites because Environment Canada hasn't released the official data yet. But the volunteer sites at Duncan's Cove were showing 10 centimeters of snow. On the Halifax Peninsula, 15 centimeters. But then if you get into areas a little bit further back, like in Hammonds Plains and towards Tantallon, they saw anywhere from 20 to 30 centimeters of snow. So we hopefully will get some official data from the airport and such. But I'm very curious on this. We had a rather robust discussion in the hallowed halls here at the radio station this morning about snow days, and it seems that there are two very distinct camps on this, and people are very adamant about their decisions. So I'm going to open up the telephone lines today and ask you that question. Of course, it will be, as I mentioned before, an open hour. Regular rules will apply, but I'm curious to see what you think about winter weather and if we've become afraid of snow. A lot of us spend some time traveling to get away from the snow, and one of the most popular or more popular destinations as of late has been Cuba. But we know that a fuel shortage there and is resulting in Cuban vacations being cut short, Cuban vacations being canceled, and that, of course, is going to put a lot of people out. So we're going to welcome Associate Professor of International Studies at Dalhousie University, that's Robert Huish, to the program to tell us a little bit about this and what this will mean moving forward. You're listening to the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Alstrand. Glad you're here. Back in a minute. All right, welcome back. Lots has been talked about and a lot has been written about the ongoing situation in Cuba as that country faces a pretty significant shortage of gasoline and other fuel products and other things that they had come to rely on. And that has now resulted in travel being disrupted. The major airlines announcing earlier this week that they would no longer be flying to Cuba because of concerns that they were going to not be able to gas up their airplanes when they wanted to turn around and come home. So that has had an impact on travel. I understand that is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the problems that are happening in Cuba, as the people there are also suffering under this crisis as they're unable to generate power. I'm reading stories of the government in Cuba starting the generators for 30 minutes or 40 minutes at a time and then shutting them off for about 4 or 5 hours as they try to conserve fuel. It's a pretty nasty situation that's happening in Cuba right now. Very pleased to welcome into the program today to tell us a little bit more and to share his insight, an Associate Professor of International Studies over at Dalhousie University. That's Robert Huish. Rob, how are you?
Good. It's good. Thanks very much, Dan. Good to talk to you.
I guess let's start with the impacts on travel to Cuba. I know this is a popular time of the year for people to especially with all the snow that we're getting, to pack up their toys, so to speak, and travel to Cuba to get away from it all.
Yeah, and that was plans for a vacation have just turned into an adventure. In that probably most travelers are not going to get to Cuba. If they were coming there on a Canadian airline, not happening. And even though there's some other carriers that are continuing to fly into Cuba, a couple out of Mexico, a couple in the Caribbean that can do those shorter legs, they're still coming in. But again, I think there's some European carriers are as well, but they're actually stopping to do refueling in a third country. Because again, as you mentioned earlier, the fuel crisis is so severe, and now that they're running out of jet fuel and those sort of higher premium products, there's no guarantee. And just for safety standards, even though many flights that like a 737 MAX or something like that could easily get down to Cuba and back if it was filled up in Canada. Safety precautions and other things just don't recommend it. So the Canadian government has put out the advisory, and now all the airlines in Canada are saying we're not going to touch this. And in part that is because of the fuel, but also the political situation is quickly changing and it's quickly degrading in Cuba. So there's very serious talk right now of elevating the country to a state of what we would call martial law. They sort of call it a total war, a total people's war in Cuba. But basically, we're going to see the likelihood of the military having a higher place of authority in the country, and that's likely twofold. One, to be prepared for any acts of aggression from the U.S., but also to put ultra-tight rationing on things like fuel, medicines, and food.
I've also heard stories and read an account from people from Nova Scotia that returned from Cuba yesterday on our website that resorts are closing down as well because there's just no people and people that have come to rely on that as their job are losing their jobs.
That's right. So what happened last Friday was the president of Cuba, Miguel Diaz-Canel, made an announcement that kind of loosely translates into that everyone in Cuba will be militarized. So those workers on resorts are being called away to take up other civil defense duties. And if there's a resort worker who still has active connections to the military, they're going to be asked to participate in that workforce. So the resorts are again, they were in a position to kind of survive as far as they could, to the point where airlines, Canadian Airlines, European Airlines, were actually bringing food to the resorts along with passengers and their luggages. There was a priority to get diesel to the resort generators above those of that other Cubans could have, but now that's all dried up. And with that in place, considering that you've got that big shortage of diesel. I mean, Cuba goes through about 32,000 barrels a day of diesel. Most of it came from Venezuela or heavy fuel byproducts as well. Now that that's completely dropped up by the orders of the United States, they're absolutely scrambling. So even the last opportunity to get foreign income through tourism has now dried up. And going forward, I think there's only a couple scenarios to get out of this crisis before it worsens. So
this crisis it falls at the feet of the U.S. president, who is no longer allowing products from Venezuela, since all of that happened, to be sold to Cuba.
Yeah. So let's paint the picture this way. Canadians and Europeans and many others are now very familiar with Donald Trump's bullying and bellicosity all over the world. Most of Trump's bullying has taken place through executive orders. So that they can be challenged by Congress. They can be challenged by the courts. The difference with Cuba is that when a president starts piping off and starts to throw their weight around just like this about trying to prohibit other countries, not just Venezuela, but particularly Mexico and other, even Canada right now, with threats of tariffs or reciprocity for dealing with Cuba, those policies have been in place for decades. So the Cuban embargo started in the 1960s. There's about 6 congressional acts that enforce it. And the one that matters the most right now is one that was constructed in 1993 called the Helms-Burton Act. And what it does, and Clinton signed that in, by the way, what it does is persecutes companies in third countries like Canada, Italy, Mexico, for dealing business with both the U.S. and Cuba at the same time. So during that time, all the Canadian banks left Cuba. There was a whole re-rigging of boats and airplanes at the time. But my point is that when a president wants to flex for any aggression on Cuba, they actually have congressional support to do it. So that's what makes it so dangerous, because there's no risk of the court throwing it out or it being overturned. But what it also means, Dan, is that it's not just what's gone on outside of Cuba. There's been some pretty poor decisions made by the government starting in late 2020 during the COVID-19 pandemic. I mean, at the beginning of the pandemic, Cuba was an all-star. They were sending their doctors abroad to Italy. They were going other countries in Europe, Africa, and around the Caribbean to fight COVID, and everyone was praising them. They were taking in quarantine cruise ships when no one else would. So they were really putting themselves forward as sort of the heroes for the pandemic, but they were also hoping that those partnerships would bring some more money into their coffers and help their situation, and it didn't. And as a result, their economy's been in complete free fall ever since. On the official market, it's about a 13 to 15% increase of inflation, but the informal economy, you're looking more like 70%. There are tropical diseases like chikungunya, dengue, Oropouche virus that are breaking out in the cities because the garbage trucks haven't been working in months. So the garbage is stacked up and you're getting all sorts of terrible things. Infant mortality has gone from 5 per thousand up to 14 per thousand in 2025. And on top of it all, you've had an out-migration of over 2 million Cubans, many of them young, many of them well university educated, who basically voted with their feet, and they've migrated to the U.S., to Venezuela, to Colombia, or to Spain, or elsewhere. So this is a real crippling time for Cuba because you don't have that capacity there. You've got a lot of just people who are fed up with how bad the economy's been, and this last pinch targeting fuel right now by the Trump administration just seems to be putting Cuba at the absolute brink.
Robert, are we looking at we can see it developing, a humanitarian crisis now, and do you think that this is because of all the activating the military, martial law? Do you think that there's going to be a civil war in Cuba? I
don't think there's going to be a civil war. I think there's 3 scenarios that are coming up, and you're right, there is a humanitarian crisis already unfolding to the point where World Food Program is already bringing in food supplies to help feed the kids there. That's a first for Cuba. They've always been able to guarantee food, especially for women and children, and this is the first time this has happened. But there's basically 3 ways forward. First is that there's going to be a deal brokered behind the scenes, and there have been times in the past when Washington and Havana have used third parties like the Vatican or even diplomats in Canada to try to come to a deal. Maybe that's something that Trump thinks he can do, where he forces Cuba to buy energy from the U.S. at a higher price. Maybe Cuba accepts that some private entrepreneurship takes over a couple of the resorts. I know Trump has talked in the past about putting golf courses in Veradero. So maybe something like that. But the sticking point is when it comes down to Mr. Rubio and those who support him is about democracy in Cuba. And there's no official opposition. There's no mechanism in that country to open up for elections. So the question is, how would that unfold in terms of that deal making? The second way is that martial law gets invoked fully and completely, and then we see this total war breakout, big time rationing, and then Cuba, as I've talked to a couple of people there in the province of Holguin and also in Havana, that there's a lot of talk on the media there about U.S. aggression scaling up, perhaps some sort of military action against the country. So they're preparing for that. That means for Cuba to survive, they're going to find kind of nefarious partners in the region to get goods and resources in. And really by doing that, you create a security threat that wasn't there before. And that's intimidating for both Cuban people and for the U.S. Or there's a third way where the international community actually steps up and says this U.S. embargo is ridiculous. 170 countries of the United Nations have said in the past that the Cuban embargo should be overturned. And now, if we think about what Mr. Carney said at Davos, there's a new world order. If there's a time for countries in the Americas and Europe to flex and just defy the U.S. orders and get trade routes open with Cuba, now would be the time. Right now, Russia and China have said that they would, but there's no fixed plans in place. And in the past, Canada, Mexico, and Italy have all defied the Cuban embargo. So that's an example from the past that we can take forward.
Robert, appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you, Dan.
That is Dr. Robert Huish, Associate Professor of International Studies at Dalhousie University. This much deeper than just the tourism question, but if you read and there's an article on our website, halifax.citynews.ca, of accounts of people who have returned because of this problem with jet fuel and cut their vacation short. They will tell you, and the article will tell you, that there's big concern that because the tourism industry being essentially shut down, that many of these Cubans are going to lose their jobs and have no source of income. So if they get militarized or not, it's this crisis is going to expand. I read a story yesterday on account of somebody who had spent some time in Cuba before being, I guess, I don't know if evacuated is the right word, but coming home, was that because of the fuel shortage, the Cuban government is running the generators that for power for most of the people on the island for 30 minutes at a time, and then shutting them down for 5 or 6 hours. Can you imagine living like that? Update on the news with Blake, and on the other side of it, a good news story. Skyrocketing adoption rates at one of the animal shelters over in Dartmouth. A conversation with the communications and marketing coordinator for Bide Awhile Animal Shelter, Sam Cole, after the update.
X.
Welcome back to the program. I was reading on the Global News website earlier this week a story that kind of raised my eyebrow, and in a good way. And I'm sure our next guest will say that this is a good problem to have. The article reads, an animal shelter in the Halifax area is reporting a record-breaking adoption rate. And it's a phenomenon other shelters in the province are experiencing too. Staff and volunteers at Bide Awhile in Dartmouth say even finding a pet for an interested adoptee is a struggle right now. The Bide Awhile Communications and Marketing Coordinator Sam Cole says it's kind of like an Olympic sport right now trying to find a cat. Cole goes on to describe the demand as skyrocketing through the roof. We're very pleased to welcome to the show the aforementioned Communications and Marketing Coordinator. That's Sam Cole. Sam, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having us.
I guess this is a problem that many shelters would say is a good problem to have.
It is probably our favorite problem to have, to be honest. It's one that we never would have foreseen having.
Why? I guess is the question. Why is this happening?
I think there's been a huge uptick in people staying home nowadays, and spending that time at home, having a loving companion with you. Nothing makes it more attracting to lay in bed on a Saturday morning than have a cat curled up next to you. So I think there's a huge demand for animals to be part of homes now.
Sam, tell us a little bit about how difficult it is to connect humans to pets these days. I mean, you're saying that at least in the article that anytime you post an animal that's up for adoption, it's gone in a couple hours.
It is crazy. We post sporadically throughout the week new animals as they become available. So we go through a veterinary process with all our animals when they come into the shelter. So they're with us for a little bit before they're available for adoption because we want to make sure they're set up for success. But once they're available for adoption, we post them online and on our website, our social media, and usually within an hour or two, we have people come into the door at the shelter looking to adopt them. We have numerous phone calls and messages, everyone interested in bringing home one of these little companions.
It's a turnaround. I remember shortly after everybody was getting back to normal after the pandemic, and some had taken on pets during that time and were turning them in. That's just not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's crazy. Our rate of return for animals coming back to the shelter, you might think would be higher with so many adoptions, but it's actually not. We tend to see adopters keeping their pets for life. We're making sure that both the adopter and the animal are set up for success in the long term. That doesn't mean we don't have surrenders coming into the shelter. We do have a constant intake, as we've seen in previous years. But certainly once they're out in those loving homes, it's very rare that they come back. We
know cost of living is an issue, has been for several years now for Nova Scotians, but they're still kind of putting that aside and still can find some room to take on a new family friend.
I think a lot of people are really prioritizing the companionship that they can have from these little animals, especially in a world now where there is a rising cost of living. You're out doing less in the public, so you're spending more time at home. So you want that companionship to be there with you for that.
Sam, if somebody wants to adopt, obviously it's tough to do these days. I guess patience is the cure.
I think so. Like I said for Global News, it really has become like an Olympic sport.
Right.
I know it's not just us in this boat. There's shelters and rescue partners across the province who are feeling that same demand for adoption. Our best recommendation for us is to keep an eye on our website for when we're posting new companions and checking them out, seeing when they're available for adoption. And once you see one you're interested in, you can certainly give us a call if you have questions about them. But we also recommend just coming by the shelter to meet them in person.
And if you have a pet that, or know of somebody that has a pet that perhaps want to surrender, I'm sure you'll take them in, right?
Yes, so we do have a surrender process, as does all the shelters across the province. Right now, I can say a lot of us are at capacity, and that includes us here at Bide Awhile. So our intake room only has so much room for new animals coming in, and with our veterinary process and assessment process to make sure that these animals are comfortable and safe while in our care, we do have a bit of a wait list for bringing an animal into our care. That being said, we are certainly happy to bring anyone onto that wait list, and we always recommend reaching out to some other partner rescues as well and taking whoever is able to bring you in first, because at the end of the day, we are all doing the same thing, and we do work together to make a difference.
Sam, if somebody is interested in adopting or surrendering perhaps their pet, what's the best way to do that? The
best way to reach out to us would be our main office line. You can give us a call. It's 902-469-9578. Or you can check out the contact form on our website if you have any questions or wanted to see those cute companions ready for adoption.
Sam, I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Sam Cole is a communications and marketing coordinator for the Bide Awhile Animal Shelter in Dartmouth. Can't keep the animals in there very long, apparently. There's still a lot coming in, but they're able to have them adopted out to people and hopefully forever homes very quickly. In fact, it's not easy right now, apparently, to adopt a cat or a dog. So keep trying if you're looking for it. Bide Awhile website is the best place to find all of that information. I said that I would share with you any news out of Milan and Cortina as Team Canada continues to compete. I shared earlier that Mikhail Kingsbury had won a silver medal today, and lo and behold, another silver medal, this time to Elliot Grondin, who is a men's snowboard cross athlete, winning silver medal in that event today. So that's 2 skiing medals for Canada as the day progresses. So we're pretty good at those events, right? We used to call that all hot dog skiing. You remember we called it hot dog skiing? Now it's an Olympic event. I remember getting asked to leave a ski hill at one point for doing half of what these guys are doing. But anyway, congratulations to Elliot and congratulations to Mikkel. 2 silver medals today, and it's appropriate because tomorrow in Canada is National Ski and Snowboard Day. If you want to perhaps take part, we'll give you some details on how to do so. We'll have a conversation right after the break with the president and CEO of the Canadian Ski Council. That's Paul Pinchbeck, right here on the program. We're back in minutes. Off the top of the program this morning, I asked the question, have we developed a fear of snow? Well, I know that there are several of you out there that are ski and snowboard enthusiasts or like to get out and snowshoe and do all of the winter-related events that say absolutely not, Dan. And there's an event that is planned for tomorrow, which is next week, which is February 20th. That is designed to get us out and expose us perhaps some more to not only the physical activity of ski and snowboarding in Canada, but the community that is involved in it. Get out there and make a new friend. And it's always good for the mental health to get out of doors and be active in the winter instead of holed up on the couch with a bag of chips and looking out the window and watching the snowflakes fall. right? It is National Ski and Snowboard Day on February 20th. We're very pleased to have joined the program today to tell us a little bit about it. Is the president and CEO of the Canadian Ski Council, and that's Paul Pinchbeck. Paul, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It was a heck of an intro. I don't think I could have said it better myself.
All right, Paul. I guess we're obviously talking about silver medals today on the moguls and on the hills in snowcross. When the Olympics happen, these events and downhill skiing and cross country skiing and all of the Nordic events, they all get a bigger exposure, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just in every Canadian is interested in the performance of our Canadian athletes, and rightfully so. We've had some great results, and certainly with Michael today and Elliot, just an hour ago or so that I saw that flash up on my news feed. It brings a highlight to snow sports in Canada. And, oftentimes we're sort of, I guess we feel a little bit left out of the national sport picture sometimes because there's an emphasis on that great game of hockey. I kind of think that snow sports participants and snow sports athletes have time to be in the sun as well. I mean, after all, almost 50% of Canadians are either interested in snow sports or participate regularly.
Yeah, we have to embrace winter, or it becomes a long, long season, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, our ethos, obviously, we want people to come and ski and snowboard and go cross-country skiing, but at the very, very heart of it, we firmly believe that Canadians benefit from year-round physical activity, and being outdoors in winter and reaping those physical health but also mental health benefits is something that we're taking forward. So we're really encouraging individuals just to get outside and get moving. It's been cold. It's been snowy in most of eastern Canada, from Ontario all the way down into the Atlantic Canada. Let's get out and celebrate the fact that there's still some winter to go and we can have some fun.
This year's theme is Winter Moves You, and that is part and parcel to what you were describing about getting us active at this time of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it means a lot and very different things to many people. Winter moves me in many ways as a lifelong participant, as someone who's made a career in the snow sports industry and continues to have met my wife through snow sports, continue to have a great relationship with my 25-year-old daughter. There's many, many things, but, there is something about being out there, no matter where you are. Wentworth, just outside the Halifax area, down in Martok, up at Crab Mountain in Fredericton, heck, maybe all the way up on Cape Smoky and Marble Mountain. There are beautiful places to be out. Just take that all in and just enjoy the act of sliding on snow.
It's intimidating to some, is it not, Paul? When we watch some of the things we see on TV when they're 125 kilometers an hour, but the skiing is really a lifelong sport, and it's available to all levels.
Absolutely. I think the truth here is that as a colleague of mine once said back when I was running ski resorts in Canada, boy, I wish sometimes we weren't looked on as an extreme sport, just as a gentle, social, family and friends type of pastime, a little bit akin to maybe the game of golf. But the truth is that there's something for just about everybody. And while we do tend to lead with big jumps and exciting stuff like that, and our athletes are going at high speed and high risk at the Olympic Games, that represents a very small portion of what snow sports are really about. Gentle sliding on groomed snow with a snowboard, skis, or even just cross-country skiing through the park is all that most people need to feel that exhilaration.
Paul, is it an expensive sport to get into? We hear the stories about hockey all the time that, my goodness, I'm buying new gear all the time, my kid's growing, yada, yada, yada. Is skiing expensive?
Skiing can be looked on as expensive, there's no doubt. We tend to get a lot of noise filtering through about big expensive lift tickets, in particular at Western ski destinations here in Canada as well as elsewhere in the world. But the truth is for the savvy, for the interested in the game, there are great deals on skiing in Atlantic Canada, just not too far away from probably where you're sitting right now. As well, there's quite a bit of opportunity to go into your local independent retailer, your local ski shop, and find the right gear, probably used, that fits you and will give you the best opportunity. And that there are always ways to save.
It's often said that getting outside, particularly at this time of the year where we have the level of sunlight isn't around, and it's dark, it's cold, it's inhospitable for some, but it can improve your mental health. And you've teamed up for this day with the Mental Health Association.
Yeah, we're really thankful to have the Canadian Mental Health Association on board and recognizing the value that being active. I think it started really during the pandemic years. We really realized, and people realized that, okay, I can't go to the gym and get my weights and everything else, or I can't go to the swimming pool, but I can get outside and I can go for a walk. I can go snowshoeing. I can use the trails. In Ontario, we're headquartered. We actually had ski areas shut down for 7 weeks during that fateful winter. And people really did respond, hey, I have to be outside. So we're really thankful to have the Canadian Mental Health Association on board to really put a highlight on not the physical activity, but that sense of the mental wellness of just standing there, taking in some beautiful spots. And they exist in every mountain environment, whether it's in Atlantic Canada or British Columbia. This is standing at the top of a ski hill, anticipating that run really gives you that sense of relief.
Paul, if somebody wants to learn more about National Ski and Snowboard Day, which is Friday, February 20th, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way to do is jump on skicanada.org and look up our National Ski and Snowboard Day page. Talk to your local ski area. I would actually suggest that one of the best ways is just post online. For those of you that are social media inclined, post something online and use the hashtag WinterMovesYou and NSSD 2026 and get in on all the fun. There's quite a few people across the country posting things about what they're planning to do. And, I'm in the midst of my CMHA push-up challenge, although I do have to get caught up. And, it's just a great way to share what you believe winter is all about.
Paul, appreciate the time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That is Paul Pinchbeck. He's the president and CEO of the Canadian Ski Council. It's so very important, and I know Paul touched on this, that, winter in our part of the world, in Canada, is a long season. And it's the most difficult time of the year for most, right? It's dark. You have mobility issues getting around. You have snow days. You have storms. It's just it's not the most comfortable place to be. But I can only speak for myself on this, but when I get outside, and I try to do it when I can, to get out and just go for a walk on the trails here, or get out and go for a hike in the woods, or in my younger days, you'd strap on a pair of skis and go skiing or snowshoeing or whatever it was. It's just completely. I think even better than in the summertime. You all know that I'm an active outdoors person in the summertime. I'm fishing and I'm camping and hiking but the wintertime, for whatever reason, it's maybe because I grew up in Northern Ontario. It works that much better to just kind of clear my head, and I feel better after it. And we know that we're not as active in the wintertime as we are in the summertime. We talked with Dr. John yesterday about vitamin D and those kind of things at this time of the year. And boy, it would be nice if we put Canada back on the map, if we got our kids involved into skiing again and becoming a more dominant force, not just in moguls and not just in snowcross, but in downhill and slalom and giant slalom and all of the racing events and cross country. Boy, there's cross country ski trails here at Brunello has groomed trails that we can use, and we certainly have the space to do that kind of stuff, don't we? Anyway, this leads me to my question of the day, folks, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts are. I've got a couple of emails with regards to it already today, and we're going to open up the telephone lines for the open hour. Regular rules apply, of course. Want to put that caveat out there. If you want to bring something else to the table, you're certainly more than welcome to do so. But given the snowstorm, quote unquote, yesterday, and the decision, and again, I'm not going to criticize the decision made by HRCE and other school boards to close school, because they are ultimately responsible for the safety of our kids. All of that being said, when a 10 or a 15 centimeter storm happens, it feels like people in Nova Scotia begin to panic. Just go watch the grocery store. Have we become afraid of snow? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Have Nova Scotians developed a fear of snow? Again, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. The open hour after the update. Hello and welcome to the Thursday, or as we like to call it, Friday Eve edition of the Open Hour. We're opening up the telephone lines for the next 60 minutes to get your opinion on the issues of the day. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. If you're near a window right now, take a look out it. The sun is appearing. The snow stopped very early this morning. And yet, schools across the region are closed. And again, as I said before the break, and I'll say it again, I'm not going to question that decision. They are responsible for the safety of our children. But you're parents, and you go to work. There are a number of organizations, government offices, both at the municipal level, at the provincial level, and different businesses across the city that have delayed opening today because of yesterday's snowstorm. I drove in this morning, I don't know, what time did I drive in? 7:30? Was I here for 8 o'clock, Vanessa? Vanessa's shaking her head, yes. So I don't remember. Anyway, around 7:30 I drove in this morning, and my commute, and that's based, my anecdotal information based on my commute was that the roads were nice and wet. They weren't slippery. The side streets were plowed. The main roads were plowed. And I did not have a single issue getting into where I drove through the Windsor Street Exchange. I came down the Bedford Highway. And it was like any other winter day. In the lead up to the storm yesterday, I heard from some people in my family and some people around the radio station that said that some of the aisles in the grocery stores were decimated yesterday, particularly the chip aisle, which is that's a very Nova Scotian thing. As people were gathering their supplies so that they could ride out this latest storm. I got to ask the question, folks. Have we developed a fear of snow in our part of the world? Have we become accustomed to the winters that we've experienced for the last couple, right? Where we'd get a little bit of a snowstorm and it would melt and it would rain and we could see grass most of the year. The ponds and the lakes in the region didn't freeze, or if they did, not for very long. And the immediate response is, if we're going to get anything over 5 centimeters of snow, or maybe at the outlying 10, that we go into panic mode. Have we developed a fear for snow? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I guess of snow is the proper way to say that. Let's welcome Sam to the show. Sam, how are you?
I'm doing well, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. What's on your mind, sir?
Well, you asked the question if people have developed a fear of snow, and I would say that they definitely have, in my opinion. But I think that just kind of goes along with, and I think statistically, you can fact check me on this, but I think AI will back me up. But I think people have become more scared of everything in the past, in recent decades. I think generalized anxiety disorder has shot up in numbers, if I'm not mistaken. And so I think that's impacted our ability to handle snow. But with that said, I also want to say I do know a lot of people in my personal life. Can't back this up with any numbers, but in my personal life, I know plenty of people who, would drive through, Snowmageddon to make it to work, and they just can't bear the thought of missing a single day or even a delayed start.
Right.
So I think for most people, most of us going to work 9 to 5 are not saving lives. So for the people out there who think it's the end of the world if they miss one day of work due to snow, I think they can relax a little bit. Unless you're literally saving lives, which very few of us are, a one day off work or one delayed start's not going to kill you.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it, sir. Have a good one. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I think maybe part of my concern or my eyebrow raising is based on my career choice, and I'm looking through the window at people who do drive through Snowmageddon to get here, to tell you all to stay home. It's kind of what we do right here at the radio station. Is our crew gets into work, and some are fortunate enough to live very close. Others will drive in and will get here so that they can update you and tell you to stay home. And maybe that's where the concern for me comes, because for many years I've been doing that. Are we, or have we, developed a fear of snow? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-825. Very quickly, an email comes to us from Tim. It says, "Hey, Dan, great show as always. Thank you very much. We in the Maritimes have definitely become," and his quotation is, "snow wimps. It's ridiculous how everything closes for what everyone calls a snowstorm. Here in Pictou County, they call off school for literally any amount of snow. I grew up in the Midwest prairies near where I'm from," and that's referring to me, "and they rarely called off school for snow. I read that Winnipeg hadn't had a snow day in 30 years until they had a major blizzard in April of 2022 that crippled the city, and they have much more severe winter weather than we do here. I say if they don't want to run the school buses, leave it up to parents to get their kids to school, but I think we all know what would happen then. There'd be just a handful of students that show up. I guess it is the way that it is here." And that comes to us from Tim. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Lori.
Hey, how are you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
Good. I just thought I'd give my little opinion here. It's crazy how people are, it seems like they're actually scared of the snow. As a school bus driver, yes, I totally agree with closing the schools. You got to keep it safe for the kids and allow time for cleanup. But like these office buildings and malls and doctors' offices, like, hello, it's crazy. It really is. But it's not just us. Like, we have a lot of people over here now from other countries who are also not used to it.
Okay.
So I think that may have a lot to do with that as well. I mean, you got to look at everybody here, right?
For sure. Hey, Lori,
And
appreciate
it's also
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. I was just going to say it's also a way, because of the way that people are also bringing up their kids nowadays. They're just not taught to get out there, pick up a shovel, do your thing, get off the screens. Like, I totally agree with having a lot to do with that as well.
Lori, appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We're going to take a break. There's a couple of lines open, folks, if you want to get in. Have Nova Scotians developed a fear of snow? We're back after the break. All right, welcome back to the open hour. 902-4. Let me say that number time. How many times a day do I see that number? I still mess it up. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Those are the numbers if you want to join the conversation again. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Are we afraid of snow here in Nova Scotia? That's the question. Again, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Nancy Lee.
Hello, Dan.
Appreciate you calling. What's on your mind?
First of all, I really enjoy your show. I never miss it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Regarding the snow, I think that we're so inundated with social media and news and so much information coming at us. I don't think Nova Scotians are afraid of anything, to be honest. We're tough people. So I think that when somebody says, "You hear it's going to snow?" and then the next guy says, "Yeah, I heard it's 10 to 20.
Yep.
No, I only heard it's 5 to 10.
Yep.
So we have so much information, so many people, and then all of a sudden we do create fear. Are we afraid? Never. Nova Scotians aren't afraid of anything. But as far as the information coming at us, making us afraid, but it really does well for the retailers, don't you think?
Well, if they're open and people actually get out to go shopping, right? That's the question.
Before the storm.
Oh, well, hey, for sure, the grocery stores, there's no doubt, right? I mean, the chip aisle gets raided.
Yeah, no kidding. So,
Right.
I mean, it's really good for retail.
For
And
sure.
I just drove from Bridgewater to Dalton South,
Mm-hmm.
and the roads are not very good at all. And to be really truthful and honest, I would not want to be driving a busload of children on these roads. The Felton South Road is not plowed, as well as so many of the off-roads.
Right.
So as far as school closures, I think that has to be decided with the schools, like what they're going to do. Are they going to get their kids there? Are the teachers going to go in? Whatever.
Right.
But as far as buses on the road, no, safety first.
Nancy Lee, I appreciate the call. Thank you very much.
All right, you take care.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I can tell you, and I don't know if I'm supposed to say this, but, I'm going to say it anyway, that when we here at the radio station get analytics on our website, right, we get numbers of people that visit the site and that open the pages and view the pages, right? Those analytics are available to anybody that has a website. I don't think I'm speaking at a class, but I can tell you from recent experience that when a weather story, to Nancy's point, gets posted, right, or we talk about a storm, be it a yellow level alert or a warning or a storm, that those stories are leaps and bounds more consumed by our readers than any other news of the day. It's quite astronomical, the difference. So Nova Scotians love to talk about weather. There's no doubt about that. And those stories always do well. And I can't speak for the other media outlets in the city, but I'm sure that they have the same sort of numbers that we get. So that's a little bit of insight of how that gets consumed. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Where are we? Oh, let's go to Gary. Gary, how are you?
Hi. When I was younger, we used to walk in storms and all that stuff to school. Today, the kids don't want to walk to school today. They want the time off.
Well, I can tell you when I was a school kid that if I would have been able to get a day off, I'd have been pretty happy about it. And I'm sure you too would have been, Gary, right?
That's right. I remember we didn't go to school. The parents were mad at us. You ever going to bring Steve Murphy back on the radio?
Steve Murphy's out of the country. He's on vacation for the winter. So we will we'll do our very best to bring him back when he gets home.
Yeah, because I know you and Steve Murphy. It'd be nice to bring them back.
All right, Gary, appreciate it, sir.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I don't know a school-age child out there that would be disappointed with a snow day. Maybe there are. Maybe your kids are. Maybe they just love school so much that they want to go. But normally, when the snow days are called, not a lot of complaint from the students. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Let's bring in another email here. This one comes to us from Alan. It says, "Hey, Dan, I don't think it's so much that we're afraid of the snow, but we did get complacent over the last couple of years. Plus, I think many are just using it as an excuse to take the day off. Laziness more than fear, if you ask me." And that comes to us from Alan. Again, 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Kevin.
Good morning, Dan the man.
How are you?
How you doing?
I'm good. What's on your mind?
Good question. The lady was right. I think it's a twofold process. I think a lot of what she said was right. The other thing I'd like to add to her comments is I think part of it is there's a lack of trust in Nova Scotia Light and Power.
Right.
Now, think about that.
Well, I do.
Okay,
I think about it every day, I can tell you.
Yeah, we get 50-kilometer winds. Are we going to lose the power?
Right.
So people see a snowstorm, 25, 30 centimeters. I think we've gotten to a point here in Nova Scotia where there's a lack of faith in Nova Scotia Light and Power to be able to handle storms.
Well, we saw it earlier this month or last month, right?
Yeah. And I mean, when I was growing up, I'm telling you, I grew up in the city. I'm over 60 years old. I'd never seen so many power outages for the least amount, the littlest things. And that's, of course, when it was owned by the government, and then it became privatized. But now I think a lot of people don't have any faith in the power company. They run to Sobeys, they get their groceries, they get their potato chips and their ice cream, and they say, well, is the power company going to keep the power on in the snowstorm?
That's a fair point.
There you go.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay, buddy.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. It made a lot of sense, right? And I can tell you that I watch the power pretty closely, like many of you do, when it comes to these kind of storms. And I'll tell you, it was the second page that I opened up this morning when I woke up and after the storm had already ended, was to see how many power outages. And you know, fair credit and credit where credit is due. At least the last time I looked, there was only a handful of scattered outages across the province. So it looks like the grid held up this time around. But you're right, Kevin, that I know that many people have gone to the lengths of buying generators. And we've talked about it yesterday, people putting solars into their house to not only to make things a little more cheaper, but in an effort to try. I know that the battery storage thing's an issue. But people are looking for alternative means to generate electricity because of some of the issues that we've seen with Nova Scotia Power. I just want to pass on a couple of really quick emails here before we have to take our next break. If you were listening to the show a little bit earlier today, you heard us have a conversation with the good folks over there at Bide Awhile. They were telling us that they're having a welcome problem, I guess, at their facility, is that they're adopting animals out quicker than they can get them on their website, and any shelter will tell you that is a good thing. I got an email from Jennifer. It says, "Hi, Dan. While it's absolutely excellent that one shelter like Bide Awhile is running low on pets to adopt, that's not the case overall. There are other shelters and grassroots groups here in HRM in Nova Scotia that still have many abandoned pets requiring a safe and loving home. While I don't want your listeners to think that this problem is solved, it's not. If Bide Awhile is low, try other organizations." And our representative Sam from Bide Awhile did say that they work with other member organizations to guide people there should there not be anything available at their shelters. But I just wanted to pass that along from Jennifer today here on the show. This email comes to us from Dan, and it reads, "Back in my day," have we had that conversation, right? I feel like I'm sitting on my... Anyway, "Back in my day, snow was celebrated. A snow day from school meant sleeping in, followed by hitting the hills for sledding and skiing, or the lake for a game of shinny. Everything weather is feared now. It doesn't help that any amount of snow fall is promoted with fear in the media. Stay inside, stay away from the beaches, have your phones charged up, stock up on chips and pop and water. People definitely look for a reason not to go to work. Those people are probably the ones paid whether or not they show up or not. Get out there and enjoy the weather, folks." And that comes to us from Dan. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Here, quick, another email very quickly before we go to the break. There are several lines open, folks, if you want to get into the conversation. People just smarter, according to Paul, with the ability to work from home. For many people, why risk driving around? You can't put your car off the road, get hurt, etc. if you don't leave your house and can still do your job. And that comes to us from Paul. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Have Nova Scotians developed a fear of snow? We've seen it now. Is this the fourth one that we've had in recent weeks? It's disruptive, right? Even if the decision's made to keep the kids out of school, that becomes an issue for parents, right? It becomes a childcare issue, and I'm sure that parents in Nova Scotia, particularly outside of HRCE, where this happens much more frequently. I'm thinking of in the Valley and the Chignecto Central and the South Shore and the Tri-County boards where this seems to happen more frequently than it does in HRCE, that they have a snow day plan in place. I would assume they do. But for some, it's a day off work. If they're unable to work from home, that costs them money. If it's daycare or babies, do they still call it babysitting services, child watching services? Then that is a cost that's associated with that. Snow days are expensive. And not to mention the lack of productivity and so on and so forth. So have Nova Scotians developed a fear of winter storms? 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. We are back after the news. All right, welcome back. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. That is the telephone number if you'd like to join the conversation today. The question, have Nova Scotians developed a fear of snow? Got an email from Mike that reads, "Hey, Dan, great show as always. I think it's a good thing that the kids have a snow day today. Gives more people an opportunity to cheer on Team Canada as the men's tournament gets underway at the Olympic Games." I don't think that's a bad thing. I really don't. By the way, that game gets underway here in about 6 or 7 minutes. The women's game is into the third period. Canada taking on Finland in that makeup game. You remember it was postponed because of the norovirus on Team Finland. It's a couple of minutes left. I think 3 minutes left. Canada's way up. I think it's 5-0. So it looks like Canada has found the net and returned to form after their loss to the Americans. So we'll see how that progresses into the medal rounds or the quarterfinals or whatever we want to call it. But yeah, Sidney Crosby and Nathan McKinnon and Brad Marchand will be taking the ice here very shortly. So I'm sure there'll be an extra set or two of eyes on that tournament today because of the snow day that's happening here. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Sandra.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm well. What's on your mind?
I was thinking of the snow. So I go into work around like 3 a.m. and the roads today were like not great to drive on, but they're just like winter roads. I think people are afraid of other drivers on the road, and that's what makes people afraid of snow, because they're just afraid that someone else is going to lose control, hit them, and so when I go to work at 3, there's no one on the road,
right.
So it's much safer. But then I worked at 7 the other day, and it was like I saw 3 car accidents and like the last snowstorm, and I think that's what makes people afraid. Not like people enjoy the winter, I think, being in Canada. But
thanks, Sandra. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. I can appreciate driving in that time of the morning. Did it for many, 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 many years. And Sandra's right. There's not a lot of traffic on the road, but it's not just the snowstorms that create for hazardous conditions on the roads when you're driving in during the morning commute. Hello, Ed. Ed, are you there? Ed, I'm going to stick you on hold. You're going to have to turn your radio down so that you can hear us. There's a delay, and I'll come back to you in a moment. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. Gerald writes, "Hey, Dan, happy snow day. Just wondering why you repeat those telephone numbers for the open hour so frequently." It's a common question, Gerald, and the reason why is that people are turning on the open hour at different times throughout the hour, right? They can jump in their car or turn on the radio at different times, and if they want to take part in the conversation, may not know the number off the top of their heads, may not have it programmed into their phones. So they, when I read them like that, it gives them an opportunity to partake. That's the main reason why I do that. Let's go back to the phone lines, and we'll say hello to Cheryl. Cheryl, how are you?
How are you today?
I am well. What's on your mind?
I'm not really afraid of snow. I am afraid of riding off my car.
Right.
Afraid of people without snow tires. And I just lost my car because it was hard on it in the winter, and I had to get a new one just 2 days ago. So, it's now, and I have snow tires on, but, I'm not going to just go out on the roads with a car that I just got, and take that risk. I mean, for, what do we have, 4 to 7 of these storms? It's better to just mitigate the damages and stay home if you can. Let the people that need to get to work, and let people clean up. But insurance is expensive. Cars are more expensive than the 90s, and I don't think many of us can afford to write off their car and have to fight insurance at this, when they need to get to work.
Fair point, Cheryl.
Thanks.
Thank you. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. That's the telephone number if you want to join the conversation. It's interesting, and I think one of our callers, or maybe it was an email earlier in the day today, kind of hit the nail on the head when they when they said that, we may have become complacent because, let's be frank, that we've had no winter for the last couple of winters, right? And this year has been abnormal. I was chatting with somebody about this earlier in the day today, and it's been a minute or two since we've had a winter, right? I remember. Do you remember the winter when we had those big storms back to back, and then the banks froze and the streets got really narrow? And I have pictures walking on the sidewalk on my street, and the snow coming up to my shoulders, right? So it's in that, but that was several years ago, and we haven't had a winter like that since. So I wonder if complacency is part of the issues that people, because they don't have to deal with it every single year and for months and months, like we're apparently doing this year, that contributes to their apprehension about getting out there into the snow. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Ed, are you there? Hello, Ed. All right, we're going to put Ed back on hold. I think he is perhaps looking at us throughout the delay. Let's go back to Len. Len, how are you?
Not too bad. And yourself?
I'm well. What's on your mind today?
Well, first of all, I would like to make two quick comments. First of all, I'd like to tell you that I was very displeased with the Super Bowl game last Sunday. I thought it was really not compared to other games that we've ever watched in past years. I think there was better teams that would have played much better in the Super Bowl than those two teams.
You didn't like the defensive 12-0 first half?
Yeah, I mean, when you watch almost half of the game and there wasn't even one touchdown yet.
Right.
But that's okay. But and the other thing is, I must agree with you, like we did last week when you talked about this halftime show with this Bunny guy, Bad Bunny.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how you felt about it, but I must admit, I didn't enjoy that at all. I thought that was, to me, he wasn't singing. It was more a rap, really, in Spanish or whatever. But no, it wasn't. That wasn't the best Super Bowl show that they've ever had on there. With all the good singers we have in this world, I think I could have got a better performance from other people than him.
You know that, Len, sorry, very quickly before you go on your next point, do you know that that halftime show that you didn't like was the most viewed halftime show in history?
They're like me. I watched the whole thing as well because I thought something might get better in it. And so I'm one of the ones of the many people that did watch it. I thought it would. How did you feel about it?
I said that it wasn't the best one that I've seen, but it certainly wasn't the worst one that I've seen.
No, but anyway, what I could say is so many good singers and entertainers in the world. Why do we have to have a person that speaks nothing? I'm not saying anything against the Spanish language. I think the Spanish language in music. I mean, we've had some fantastic singers from Latinos that they were fantastic.
Len, if you had, I give you the magic wand, who would you rather have seen than Bad Bunny?
Well, it's hard to say. With the music industry today, I'm of an age when I used to love music by people that sang I loved singers like Barbara Streisand. I'd like people like, why wouldn't they? I don't know. I can't. Right, you caught me off guard right now. I have to think for a second.
All right.
But I know. I mean, when I think of music, what I listened to over the last 50 years, I listened to some beautiful people that sang songs. I mean, I wouldn't buy this record from this Bad Bunny. I wouldn't buy that to listen to that in the house. Well, that would. I mean, that's like a rap. And there was one guy that said about that kind of singing years ago. He was a wrestler. I don't know if you remember him. He was called Mr. Perfect. Do you remember him?
Yep. Kurt Hennig.
Yeah, Kurt Hennig. He said one time, "Let me tell you about rap." And the guy said, "What do you think about it?" He said, "Rap is crap."
All right, Len, I appreciate the call. 902-405-6000 or 1-877-801-8255. it's interesting when people call or email me and complain about the halftime show, and then I ask them the very simple question: Who would you rather have seen, right? Or who would have done a better job? And then it gets back to the music that you listen to, right? It's Bad Bunny is the most streamed artist in history. He knocked Taylor Swift off the top of the charts, so he's very popular. Because I don't listen to it. Right? Or you don't listen to it, or Len doesn't listen to it, doesn't mean that it's bad. It's extremely popular, and it was the most watched Super Bowl halftime in history. That counts. Bruce Springsteen. That counts. The Rolling Stones. That counts. Insert band here. You too. Back after the break. I think it's funny, and thank you to all of you for sending the emails. I truly appreciate them, and I read them all. I think it's funny that people, and I said it before the Super Bowl. I said it after the Super Bowl that I'm not a Bad Bunny fan. It's not my cup of tea. But that doesn't mean that he shouldn't have done the show. And I'm getting some emails from people, and I don't mean to laugh, but I'm getting some emails from people who are saying, "Oh, it was lewd, and he was grabbing his crotch, and he was doing like what? Have you not watched the Super Bowl show halftime show before? Right? It's all the time. Is it right? Well, whatever. But it's all the time. Rihanna. I mean, let's go down the list, right? Anyway." Because you don't like the act, you didn't like this, but then it was going to grab his crotch. That's not true. Maybe he did, but he's not the only one that's ever done that on that show. Do you remember the wardrobe malfunction of yesteryear with Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson? Yeah. Not the best Super Bowl halftime show I've ever seen, but certainly not the worst. Go back and watch the Black Eyed Peas about grabbing crotches. Just saying. 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. This email comes to us from Darren. Darren writes, "Hey, Dan, as far as people being afraid of snow these days, it seems we are a society that's becoming more afraid in general. Society of bubble people. I remember back in the day, we rarely missed school due to snow. It seems that people were better winter drivers back then as well. People weren't fazed by every little thing. We've become a spoiled, soft society, a sad reality." That comes to us from, was it Darren? Let's take a look at this. This is an email in response to the conversation that we had yesterday with regards to District 9 Councillor Sean Cleary. It comes to us from David. David says, "Hi, I think it's time that the mayor or whoever needs to take a serious look at the conduct of Sean Cleary. For him, such inflammatory statements about killing bicyclists because he doesn't agree with something is too far over the top. If he doesn't think that a painted line is going to keep bicyclists safe, how does he think that a pedestrian and a bicyclist on a shared pathway makes sense? If we're talking about bicycles being powered by someone with two legs, then that's one thing. Something that is motorized and does crazy speeds is another. How about instead protected bike lanes? We take a serious look at providing some money for enforcement of the rules for bicyclists and for scooters." 902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, Daniel.
Hey, Dan, how's it going today?
Good. What's on your mind?
Oh, well, you guys were speaking about the halftime show there, and I very much agree with you. Personally, I'm not a fan of Bad Bunny either, and I've seen better halftime shows, but what I did appreciate was that he really brought together the entire community surrounding Latin countries and Americas.
Right.
So that was beautiful to see. He even shouted out Canada, so I was hoping that maybe at least some Canadians would appreciate that. Another thing is, you brought up that they're always hating on Bad Bunny, but I thought they would have at least appreciated seeing Lady Gaga come out too.
Right.
Yeah.
And Ricky Martin.
Ricky Martin, that's right.
Right.
Yeah. Lady Gaga is a legend to everyone.
I think that's the third.
I think they would have liked that.
I think that's the third time that she's been in a halftime show.
Yeah, exactly, and it was totally unexpected, so it was a nice surprise.
Daniel, thanks for the call, my friend.
Yep, no worries.
902-405-6000, 1-877-801-8255. Hello, James.
Hi. Very quickly, snow days, I tend to agree with you. And regarding school closure, it was interesting you had a school bus driver call. I would think they could keep the schools open and perhaps cancel some bus routes. That's the only danger. As you pointed out, everybody's at work today and the roads are clear, and so people could have gotten to school unless, for some reason, some remote rural routes for school buses, but they could keep the schools open and change the bus routes if need be. The halftime show of the Super Bowl, I think what you've done is you've picked up the rock and uncovered the mega people. They're complaining about Bad Bunny, but anyway, as you well know, they're really just surreptitious Trump supporters. And I can't resist mentioning that Nova Scotia Power today, as we speak, is advertising for what they call a change specialist, senior change specialist. And I won't read the job description, but it is kind of ironic. And, in other words, they need a lot of change.
James, what is a change specialist? What's the Coles notes of the description?
Help the organization adapt, business transformation, help the organization adapt to changing circumstances, et cetera, et cetera.
Thanks, James. We can appreciate that. Thank you. I think there's an easy solution to that. Just listen to the Todd Veinotte Show. Everybody here's got an opinion about how we should change Nova Scotia Power, shouldn't we? 902-405-6000 or 187. Corporate speak, right? It's just all gobbledygook. They say that they're changing leadership, and yet and it's very interesting following the coverage of the leadership. Everybody was just didn't even know how to write it. Like, is it a shuffle? Is it a demotion? Is it a promotion? Is it I think he got promoted. I think that he stood in front of the cameras for a year and took all the heat that we talk about here on this program. And then when they got to almost the 1-year anniversary, March 1st is his last day. The cyber attack happened in March. Then they're like, okay, man, just tough it out. We'll get somebody else to pick it up, and we'll get a change specialist in here to try and improve our image, and we'll transfer you down the hall there and give you some executive advice. Really? And people wonder why there's so much. So people are just, when it comes to business, just think that everything's corruption because, the optics of this. Maybe he deserved that, but maybe he did. Maybe that he was, he hit all his KPIs if we're talking technobabble now, and he got promoted, and maybe he deserved it. But the optics of the whole thing are awful. Nova Scotia Power has done an absolutely terrible job communicating throughout the last year with this thing, right? Anyway, thanks to all of you who emailed. Thanks to all of you that called and picked up the phone and dialed the numbers to join the conversation. I truly appreciate it. Snow fear is real, I guess. And hopefully, with fingers crossed, we're done with this, so that we don't have to deal with closures and cancellations for the remainder of the year. I think I'm perhaps being a little naive when it comes to that. I think we'll probably have some more snow days before the end of the winter. But I can tell you that I'm done brushing the truck off. I know you're done shoveling and scraping all the time. It would be nice to get back to what has become a quote-unquote traditional Nova Scotia winter, right? Some melting would be nice. Team Canada is on the ice, so we'll keep you up to date on what's going on with that game as they're in the first period. That's the men's team. The women's team winning earlier today against Finland. And we'll continue the program on the other side of the updates at the top of the hour here at noon, we'll get an update on what we saw from that storm and the numbers so that you have the information you need to see how severe that storm really was. When our meteorologist and friend of the show, Allister Aalders, joins us, we're back after the news. All right, welcome back. Hear that? That is the lack of productivity that's happening across Canada right now as the men's hockey tournament for Canada gets underway. In the first period, I would imagine there are televisions in workplaces. There are tablets and phones that are watching Team Canada as they're on the ice against the Czechs right now. And the productivity is grinding to a halt. So maybe this snow day was a good thing. Who knows? Anyway, one of the people that was watching the events of yesterday when it came to the snowfall and the storm very closely is our meteorologist, Allister Aalders. And I'm sure he is listening to the open hour going, what am I going to get into when I talk to Dan today? Am I the reason why people are afraid of snow? Hello, Allister.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Not too bad. So I guess the first question, Allister, was this storm, did it perform like it was anticipated to perform? Was it worse? Was it better? Was it lighter?
I mean, it was quite variable in terms of how much snow we did receive. In the Halifax area, the spread is about, 10 to 30 centimeters with, you were talking about this earlier, 10 at Duncan's Cove on the peninsula, reports of about 15 centimeters, although hearing from some people saying in Eastern Passage, just on the other side of the harbor, it seems like it's perhaps double that, and double that in places like Hammond's Plains, where there was about 30 centimeters reported by a volunteer. Out towards the airport, it was about 20 centimeters reported across the province. A lot of variability. It was mainly the central and eastern portions of the province that had 20 to 30, some in excess of 30 centimeters, and 30 was a bit more than I was expecting. I was expecting the high end to be closer to 20, maybe 25. And then parts of Cumberland County were in the range of about 5 to 10 centimeters, which was expected, although they are getting a bit more snow for parts of the north and east today. So snowfall variable. For some performed, for some it exceeded expectations in terms of the event as a whole. The snow was supposed to be light throughout the day yesterday. I mean, I think the expectation was perhaps we would see more snow on the streets, sidewalks, and parking lots, but with temperatures at and above freezing, a lot of it did melt on contact. But the heaviest snow was always forecast for yesterday evening and the overnight, so we really did see that move in, and obviously just some very high snowfall rates for some at their peak, 2 to 4 centimeters per hour.
Is this the typical behavior of an Alberta Clipper, Allister, when they come from the west to the east and the large amount of, Hammond's Plains isn't that far away from the peninsula, right?
Well, that's right. I hope we can maybe talk more about Alberta Clippers tomorrow because they're quite interesting. But with this Alberta Clipper, they don't come with a lot of energy or a lot of moisture, but where it moved into the Gulf of Maine and then along the Atlantic coast, it's, pulling in on some of that moisture. And obviously, with snowfall events, sometimes the snowfall rates or the general area of snow is widespread, but you can get very localized, sharp gradients within the snow like we experienced with that previous Sunday to Monday storm that went through last time. So obviously temperature is a big factor. It's a bit warmer closer to the coast and in the city compared to a place like Hammond's Plains. So there's a greater fluff factor, if you will, where with cooler temperatures we see more snow that's able to accumulate, whereas closer to the city and along parts of the coast, temperatures a bit warmer, so it's a wetter snow. You see more compaction and not necessarily as much accumulation, but obviously the coastal story is not limited to all because, parts of the eastern shore reporting 20 to 25 centimeters of snow from the system. So there's just a lot of variables that go into it, not just limited to temperature, but also the localized scale of some of these snowfall bands that we do sometimes see in these storms.
Are we done now? Are we done with this weekly battle with snow?
Well, I don't know if I'd say we're done. I mean, there's a lot of winter left to go. We are entering into a bit of a quieter pattern for the end of the week. We clear out tonight, sunny for Friday, and mainly sunny Saturday, and the temperatures have been closer to seasonal, which has been nice compared to the cooler end to January and start to the month. There is another Clipper-like system set to move in on Sunday, although I do think this will be faster, weaker, not taking the same track. So the forecast for Sunday right now, a few flurries or periods of light snow, but not looking to be a storm or anything significant at this point. And then obviously it is a long weekend. Heritage Day Monday is looking fine. And overall into at least the first half of next week, conditions are looking relatively quiet. Perhaps towards the middle of next week, we could see a system rolling through according to those long-range weather models. But obviously that's a bit far out at this point. So we'll keep an eye on that. And obviously a system doesn't necessarily mean snow. Some of the models, if you want to believe their early predictions, which I don't put a lot of faith into beyond, the 7-day mark right now, some of them indicating perhaps warm enough that rain showers mix in with that system. So that's about a week or just a bit less away. In the meantime, fairly quiet conditions, just watching a weak system for Sunday.
No thaw on the way, though. We're still looking at temperatures at or below freezing.
Well, I mean, I would, not say a grand thaw, if you will, not talking 4, 5, and 6 degrees, but, temperatures will be close to, and depending on where you are, at times above the freezing mark. Tomorrow's high is about -1, but we're near +1 on Saturday, 0 Sunday, +1 Monday. So we are at or just above the freezing mark as we go through the middle stages of this month. I mean, I know a lot of people would like to see perhaps a bit of a warm-up so we can maybe lower these snowbanks, but I think, the one benefit of this snow and this recent pattern is that we are still very much in need of moisture to help with the ongoing drought situation, which has not been resolved, and perhaps we can dive into a bit more tomorrow.
Right.
So we really need as much snowpack as we can heading into the start of the spring to help alleviate those water deficits and hopefully put us in a better position heading into the upcoming growing season and the upcoming summer season, because of the drought, while you might think it's resolved or not as bad as it was, it is still quite severe for many of us. So this snow, while maybe a bit of a nuisance or we're getting a bit tired of, it will be good for obviously replenishing the groundwater once it does melt as we go into the upcoming spring.
Allister will join us tomorrow in hour number 3 to talk about the drought and to give us the latest update on the weekend weather, particularly that it's a long weekend for many. So, Allister, appreciate you pinch hitting today, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sounds good, Dan. Thank you.
That is Allister Aalders. He is our resident meteorologist, and he will give us the latest on the weather on our regular Friday segment, and we'll do that again tomorrow. We're going to take a break. Something we've talked about here several times on the program. We've heard from store owners across HRM. We've heard from store owners here at Yonge and Roby. We've heard from store owners on Spring Garden Road. We've heard from store owners in downtown Halifax. We've heard from their BUDs, or the business improvement districts. And they were, as a group, as a collective, in front of City Council earlier this week as the budget deliberations going on, demanding that we see more police officer boots on the sidewalks of our shopping districts in an effort to curb a rise in theft. A conversation with the executive director of the Quinpool Road Mainstreet District Association, Karla Nicholson, when we come back. All right, welcome back. In the preamble before the break, I explained that this is something that we've been talking about here for the last, couple of years now, I would imagine, and it continues to rise, and it's getting to the point where business owners and business improvement districts are now appearing before council saying, like, look, we got to do something about this rise in theft from stores in the shopping areas here in HRM. Very pleased to welcome to the show Executive Director of the Quinpool Road Mainstreet District Association. That's Karla Nicholson. Karla, how are you?
Great. Thanks for having me on.
Am I on track here? Is this a problem that's continuing to rise? Are we seeing more and more of this?
Well, we're definitely seeing more since COVID, and I feel like it comes in waves, and sometimes it depends on who's in your area at a given time, but it just really feels like the level of desperation in people has grown exponentially. I'm just shocked by the drug usage in the city. And of course, with drug sales and drug usage brings, a lot of issues. The homelessness issue escalates things as well. So, yeah, definitely for sure. We decided in this last summer that we needed to get a handle on it. We were seeing things we didn't like open drug sales and usage. And we've always been a really welcoming, friendly, safe area, and we wanted to keep it that way. So, yeah, we definitely know that shoplifting is up. We know sometimes we think that maybe there's more than just one person doing it. They come in as a group and they try to distract somebody, and then the other one sells it or steals it, we also are pretty sure one of our member businesses' stuff is being sold at a flea market, or at least it was. So, yeah.
And it also leads to incidents like we saw last weekend there on Quinpool, where there was a stabbing, right?
A stabbing. I wasn't aware of that. I knew there was a shooting with the police officers, with the gentleman who had been downtown and then came to Quinpool. But see, I can't even keep up with it.
Karla, I hear from business owners across the city that say that they do their part, right? They're the ones that are at the front line of this, so they do their part. They put the cameras in. They try to put up preventative measures to combat this, but they're not, at least in their words, not getting a lot of support from the Crown Prosecutor's Office and from police who sometimes don't even respond.
Yeah, there's so many challenges there. I mean, first of all, there's this catch and release system, which is just ridiculous. We have a community response officer, and I see how hard he's working, and we identify troublesome people in the area, and he puts them in jail, and they're out the next day. So, I mean, I sometimes wonder how many resources you can have that actually help until we actually get that catch and release issue solved. I speak very highly of my community response officer, but he's in a car, and we need to get back to the days of foot patrol.
Right.
Cops having a visible presence on the street, the ability for our members to form relationships with them. And I think the more the beat cops were on the street, they would be able to see, who these nefarious characters are and a better idea of what they're up to. But it is a challenging issue for sure. And during COVID, I believe it was in 2022, we did an initiative to put video cameras on the street and also did grants for our members to put them inside the stores. So that's helping a bit, but like everything, they may need to be maintained. So we're going to go back this year now and go through all the cameras and make sure they're properly working.
The initiative to put police officers back onto foot patrols accomplishes a bunch of things, right? Not only does it give them the ability to keep an eye on sort of the, as you said, the nefarious people in the neighborhood, but that visual presence is a deterrent too, as well.
Absolutely. And we know, like Sue Utek was saying that from Spring Garden was saying, the crime activity rises once the community response officer is off duty, but, one person can't do everything. So the more police presence, the better.
You appeared as a group, as a collective, in front of City Council earlier this week. What was the response you heard from the Budget Committee?
I have not heard anything yet.
Interesting, huh?
Oh, but I will say that some councillors came over, shook our hands, seemed very supportive. I know Councillor Sean Cleary in our area is on the safety committee that we created, so he has a really good idea firsthand of the challenges we're seeing. Deputy Mayor Patty Cuddle, she was a business improvement district leader herself in the North End and spoke with us at length during the break about the challenges. So I'm pretty confident, it will go well. And I stayed there for most of the public participation, and I didn't really hear anybody saying nay to the police budget.
Karla, we know that that part of Quinpool Road, or part of Quinpool Road, is obviously busy these days with all the construction over at the QE2 and plus the issues with theft and such. How are things on Quinpool Road? Are you busy?
Yeah, we're busy. I think we're doing quite well. Obviously it depends on the business, but I would say that overall things are going very well. Some businesses are just run right off their feet. And with all this new development, the TED, the Keep, there's a lot more people living on the street, which is always a good thing.
Right. More boots on the sidewalks, better for business.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Karla, appreciate you spending some time with us today, and all the best.
Okay. Dan, I want to tell you my son's a big fan.
Oh, I appreciate it. Well, say hello to him for me.
I will.
Thanks,
you.
Karla. That's Karla
Bye-bye.
Nicholson, the of the Quinpool Road Business Improvement Area. It's I think police officers in boots on the ground is a good first approach, but I really think that the business community, the police community, the prosecutor community all have to get together on this, because I hear this repeatedly, that people that are ripping off stores are doing so because they know that there's no penalty on the other end of it, right? I've heard stories of people walking into stores and filling shopping carts or bags and just waving at the security guard and the clerk behind the counter and walking out. They just have absolutely no fear about any kind of repercussion with regards to that. We've heard tales from callers here for months now about that I have the cameras, I have the pictures, I have all of the evidence. I call police. Sometimes they don't even show up, and when they do, the same person comes back into my store 2 days later. We've heard stories of I'll call it a racket, where people are ripping off NSLCs and then selling them in wherever they sell them, and then people are bringing the bottles back. I think if we're going to be serious about this, then all three of those groups, the business leaders, the police, and the prosecutors, need to come together and find a solution to this, because quite honestly, every time somebody rips something off from a store, you might think, it's just a victimless crime. It doesn't hurt me. Well, actually it does, because all that stuff costs money. And a store owner needs to pay the bill. So when lots of stuff is disappearing, prices for you and I go up. 1-0 after one. If you're paying attention, Team Canada up on the checks. We'll keep you updated on what's going on with that. I don't want to get in trouble, but that's the score. And we'll continue the conversation after the news. We're going to get an update on the other side of it. Something that has maybe not been fully on the radar as of late, but there's a brewing labor situation in long-term care facilities across the province. We'll have a conversation with the chair of CUPE's Long-Term Care Community Care Committee, Christa Sweeney, when we return. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Aalders. We are back in minutes. All right, welcome back. This is the Thursday, or as we like to call it, the Friday Eve edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Aalders. Glad you're able to spend some time with us as we get you set up for your long weekend. For most of you, I know some of you are unable to get the day off on Monday, but for many of us, it will be a long weekend. And when it comes to the world of labor negotiations, we know there are lots of negotiations that are going on here in the province of Nova Scotia, and maybe not getting the attention that they should, because the impact of these labor negotiations will be felt across many different families and groups and organizations across the province. Bargaining between the long-term care workers and their employers across Nova Scotia has now reached an impasse after employers presented the same package for a fourth time without changes. The bargaining committee represents workers at 52 long-term care homes across the province, and it says a lack of movement is deeply concerning, particularly given the urgent recruitment and retention challenges that are facing this sector. Pleased to welcome to the show today to tell us a little bit more about this, Chair of CUPE's Long-Term Community Care Committee. That's Christa Sweeney. Christa, how are you?
I'm good, Dan. Thanks for having me.
I guess let's start here. This process has been, I've been following this for some time. This has been going on a long time.
It's been going on for months, and that's what's really discouraging is that months in, we've received the same thing over and over, and the government's offer isn't addressing what we need to for recruitment and retention.
So the government has come back to you, to the bargaining table, in 4 different cases with no changes to their offer.
Exactly. They keep giving us the exact same offer, and they're not willing, it seems, to change on that. And the reality is that our workers can't live on what they're offering.
Christa, that doesn't feel like it's bargaining at all, is it?
It doesn't feel that way, no. We had our last session yesterday, and we have now gone off that, and we're back again in March for one more kick at the can. But if there's no meaningful movement on behalf of the government, then it's not going to be the fault of the workers for the issues escalating.
Right, and obviously the next step from this is to move towards some sort of labor disruption.
We have been starting to prepare for strike actions, and we're still willing to work with government, and it's our hope that there's still time to reach a fair agreement, but that window's not going to remain open indefinitely.
Christa, tell me a little bit about what you're looking for in this contract. What are the people you represent looking for here?
So right now, long-term care in Nova Scotia is the lowest paid in Atlantic Canada. PEI just reached agreement with a $5.50 raise for all workers. New Brunswick just reached one for $5, and that's what we're looking for as well. But it's not just about the money. The money allows for recruitment and retention. It makes it so that people can have vacation and aren't forced into mandated overtime. It lets our members have a work-life balance and not have to choose between having food on the table or heat to heat their homes. We have members who work multiple jobs to make ends meet. We even have members who work full-time and live out of their vehicle. And that's shameful in this government to have our workers who were hailed as heroes now treated and have forced to be lived in poverty.
Tell me what mandated overtime is.
So mandated overtime is when there's no staff to come in, so the staff that are there have to stay. So it doesn't matter that, you have your own relatives at home, aging parents or children, whatever it is that needs taken care of. There's nobody to come into the building, so you can't leave.
So you're kind of stuck there, right?
You are, and all this affects the care that our residents get. It's disheartening to our workers as well because nobody comes into this field to get rich. They come into the field because that's their passion. And when you're helping a client on the toilet and you have 3 or 4 bells ringing because 3 or 4 other people need to go to the washroom and you can't help them because you're short-staffed and you're stuck there, that weighs on you.
So, and I think we've heard these stories over the years that the long-term care sector in Nova Scotia is chronically understaffed.
It really is. And instead of doing a long-term solution to fix the problems, they're focused on short-term fixes. If the gap remains, the staffing crisis is going to continue to deepen, and we have to consider what our next steps are because we have to make sure that these concerns are taken seriously.
Must be tough to try and recruit somebody to work in long-term care if they're looking at the bottom line and they're seeing that they can't afford to rent an apartment or eat.
It really is, and especially when we're so close to places like New Brunswick, where it's so easy for some people to just go work over there.
Right.
And then you have new CCAs coming out of the program going into a long-term care home, but they're not prepared for the work because it's so short-staffed.
I would ask you if the negotiations have gone well, but I think if we get the same contract or the same offer 4 times in a row, I think we know the answer to that.
And that's really just it. This contract that our long-term care workers have has expired about 3 years ago. And, Houston campaigned on fixing health care, but all he's been doing is ignoring us. We've asked for meetings with our Minister for Long-Term Care, Barbara Adams. That's been denied. The staffing levels are unstable, and it's just not working what he's doing.
Nobody likes labor disruption, Christa, and I know that's the last the last thing that you can do to back your demands. Do you have a timeline? Do we know when we possibly could see a strike?
We don't have a timeline yet. We're still hoping to come to a resolution and to try and get the government to actually give us an offer that we can entertain. But we are preparing to take strike action in case it's needed. It's not what any of us want. You know, our workers care about their residents. That's why we do what we do. But they need to be able to live too.
You said some of them are living in their cars.
Yeah, we've had stories about that. We've had, workers who live in their cars, who work multiple jobs trying to make ends meet. We have workers who just can't afford to feed their families. And in this day and age, somebody working a government-funded job should not have to choose between whether to, have heat for their home or food on the table. They shouldn't have to live in their cars because that's the only option for them. When Houston promised to fix health care, he also promised to fund more hours for the ratios for client to staff care. And that's not happening. So we're not getting those meaningful connections with our residents anymore.
Christa, keep us in the loop, okay?
I certainly will.
That's Christa Sweeney. She is president of, the chair of the CUPE Long-Term Care Community Care Committee as the negotiations go on. It baffles me, and it LTCs are not. You have to go to school for that, right? You have to have certifications, and it's a special group of people that choose that career path, right? They look after our most vulnerable, and yet the sector is chronically understaffed because they can't afford to live on the money that they're making. How does that make any sense to you, right? You make the decision with your loved one to put them into long-term care when it gets to that point, and you think, okay, well, it's going into a government facility, it should be all right, and then we hear these stories, and then the government just won't budge on its contract offer. Could be interesting times ahead should this get to a point where a labor disruption happens. Time for us to take yet another break here on the program. When we come back, it is African Heritage Month, and a film festival, the Halifax Black Film Festival, will celebrate 10 years of amplifying Black voices and celebrating the month. A conversation with the president and founder of the Black Film Festivals here in Halifax and across the country. Fabienne Colas will be joining us. You're listening to The Todd Veinotte Show. I'm Dan Aalders, and we are back in minutes. Welcome back to the Todd Veinotte Show as we roll along here on a Thursday or a Friday Eve edition of the program. We are, of course, celebrating African Heritage Month here in Nova Scotia, and we're just about a week out now from the Halifax Black Film Festival that's returning for its 10th edition. That's going to happen next Friday. It'll happen both in person and online. And to tell us a little bit about what we can expect from this year's edition of the festival, the president and founder of the Black Film Festivals in Montreal, Halifax, Ottawa, Calgary, Vancouver, and Toronto, that is Fabienne Colas. Fabienne, how are you?
Hey, thanks for having me.
No, it's
great.
My pleasure. 10 years you've been doing this festival here in Halifax.
I cannot believe it myself because I remember the first edition was one film in one day. That was the first edition of the Halifax Black Film Festival. And now, today, 10 years, we're returning with 30 films from around the globe. So thank you so much for sticking by your side. That's amazing.
Fabienne, tell me a little bit about the 10th edition. What's sort of the theme this year?
Well, we don't really have a theme. Our theme would be, if we were to have one, the celebration and the gratitude, the happy time, because we're so grateful that Canada is celebrating 30 years of Black History Month in, all around the country. 30 years of African Heritage Month. This is fantastic. We're embracing that. We're celebrating that, while some other places on the planet are trying to cancel that celebration. So we are so grateful here in Canada to have this opportunity. And 10 years of the Halifax Black Film Festival is really all about the artist, all about the films, all about the audience. So we are expecting a great turnout for these filmmakers who have been working around the clock to, bring these amazing, powerful films. And this is what's up at the festival the whole week.
You are bringing in some big guns from around the world this year.
Absolutely, and the first film that we're presenting is the opening night film, and it's called Of Mud and Blood. This is a must-see film. This is a film that was at the Montreal Black Film Festival, that premiered at the Montreal Black Film Festival, and last night it opened the Toronto Black Film Festival, and we couldn't think of a more powerful film than this one to open the Halifax Black Film Festival 10 years edition. So this is a film about the mining industry. It's a film set at the Republic I'm thinking in French and then trying to translate that at the same time.
I understand.
So it does that. The Republic Democratic of Congo.
Right.
And the mining industry. So this is the type of film that we don't get to see all the time. We don't get to see every day because they don't necessarily go on streaming platforms nor on cinema. So this is a unique opportunity to see this film. But my top picks for you all, it's this short documentary series called Being Black in Canada, including Being Black in Halifax. These are emerging Black filmmakers, and they've spent a year creating their films with us, and now it's their Atlantic premiere. So they are from Halifax, from Calgary, from Vancouver, from Ottawa, from Montreal, and Toronto, and their films are available online and in person.
I would imagine some nervous anticipation for those filmmakers.
Yes. This is why it's important for everybody to come and support them, because we don't want to wait until they are at the Oscars one day or the Canadian Screen Awards one day to say, oh, I know him, I know her, she's from our town. No. You need to come and support them right now while they need that push to go further in their career. So great films to be expected.
In addition to all of the fabulous films that you're bringing in, there's also some panel discussions and some in-person events.
Absolutely. I mean, the festival is running in person and online. And among those in-person activities, we have tons of films, short films, feature films, documentaries, and drama. But we also have panel discussions, as you said, and we also have workshops. One of the workshops that is really most anticipated is a workshop about how to get grant, how to go about grant. This is one question that all artists have, and it's more and more complicated to put together those grant applications. So we're going to have a workshop just on that, and we're going to have other workshops and discussions and panels and Q&As as well after the films. So this is why this is a must-attend festival this year. And for people who are very far away or for some reasons cannot make it to Halifax, we also have an online edition for you, because the festival is hybrid and it's going to be some online films. So packages are available on the website for both online and in-person passes.
So if somebody wants to learn more, Fabienne, or maybe wants to get their passes or their online access, how do we do it?
Before I say how do we do it, may I say this is a festival for everybody, especially if you're not Black, because Black people, it's a given. Black people are coming every year. That's great. But we also appreciate when non-Black people are coming as well, because it is a festival for everybody to get a chance to dive into the great Black realities and Black history, because you don't get to have this experience every day on your regular, history books and everything else. So it's a unique opportunity for everybody, Black and non-Black film buffs out there. And HalifaxBlackFilm.com, that's where you're going to see all the programming, the trailers, and do something fantastic, which is buy tons of tickets and passes.
Appreciate your time, Fabienne. All the best with the festival.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
That is Fabienne Colas of the Halifax Black Film Festival. It will get underway on the 20th of February. That, folks, is next Friday. And I think the passes are $45. So as film festivals go, that's not extremely expensive. It's fairly cheap. And there's all 35 films, I think she said, plus some panel discussions and all kinds of events that are associated with it. If you can't go in person, you can certainly join them online, and we wish the Halifax Black Film Festival all the best. HalifaxBlackFilm.com is the website if you're looking for that to join and to get your passes, and we look forward to that. Well, that's just about going to do it here on this edition of the Todd Veinotte Show. Tomorrow, everybody, is Friday. Sounds good, doesn't it? Anyway, we have our regular run of guests for Friday. Tim Powers will be here to go over some of the inner workings of Ottawa. Nothing happened in Ottawa or internationally this week, did it? Anyway, I'm sure Tim will want to sound off on the ongoing debate over tariffs. That came before the U.S. Congress yesterday, and they actually voted it down, but it's a symbolic issue. President Trump said that he will veto anything that deals with tariffs that doesn't sort of conform to his vision of them. So we'll wait to see what Tim has to say that. And, of course, the brouhaha over the Gordie Howe Bridge earlier this week and the fallout from that. We will open up the telephone lines as we do every Friday for the Friday Free-for-All, often imitated, never duplicated. And I look forward to you joining the discussion to kick off the weekend. As I mentioned earlier, it's Heritage Day, so many of you will have a long weekend, as we will hear on the Todd Veinotte Show. We will not have a show on Monday, so you'll have to get it off of your chest on Friday before we head into that long weekend. Sports will be discussion with Cecil Wright. I know many of you are waiting to hear his thoughts on the performance of his New England Patriots at the Super Bowl this past Sunday. Cecil will join us as part of the program. Allister's going to join us to talk a little bit about the drought situation here and the snowfall that we've had and the reasons for or the impact that it is having on that drought monitor. And he will also give us the very latest on the weekend weather forecast and what we can expect for Heritage Day weekend. And that and a whole bunch more. I hope that you can join us and carry on the conversation. Again, my congratulations to our skiers in Italy this day, winning 2 silver medals in snowcross and in men's moguls. Mikkel Kingsbury continuing his winning streak, so congratulations to them. We'll keep our eyes on what's happening in Italy, and might be something that you want to talk about. Team Canada's men's hockey tournament underway right now, and it's the marquee event, I think, for Canadians in these games. And we'll open up those telephone lines to get your thoughts on Team Canada's performance as they kick off the tournament. I can tell you, they look pretty good. They're up 2-0, and they're looking like we expect them. Czechia is a world champion, so that's not a slouch team that they're kicking off the tournament against. Anyway, we can talk about all that stuff tomorrow. My enduring gratitude and thanks to Vanessa Vandenez on the other side of the glass. Folks, without her, this show just doesn't happen. Somebody's got to turn the buttons on. Not to mention all of the shows, bookings, and keeping me in order and everything else. It truly is her show, and we're just all living in it. Anyway, congratulations, Vanessa. Awesome job. I appreciate it. She's looking at me now like I'm in trouble. Anyway, we'll continue that conversation tomorrow. Thanks to all of our guests who took time out of their busy schedules today to join the conversation and impart their knowledge on us. I know that you, like I, learned something out of these interviews every day, and I truly appreciate it. My thanks to all of you who dialed the numbers and joined the conversation on the open hours, as you do each and every day. I think moving forward in the future, because we've had to leave people on hold over the last couple of days as the popularity of this segment continues, that maybe we'll resurrect the Todd's Talkback line and give you an opportunity to join the conversation if you can't. Vanessa will work on that, and we'll let you know how you can do that in the days and weeks ahead. So we're going to resurrect that for you to give you an opportunity to interact with the show. Until tomorrow, everybody, get out there and enjoy Nova Scotia. It's the wonderful place to live. People travel for thousands of miles and spend thousands of dollars to come here and see what we have right in our backyard. Have a fantastic night. Be well, everyone. And remember, be kind to one another.